Hi again then guys, and welcome to episode 8 of Visions of Tomorrow, the review series for, as the name pretty much implies, Gran Turismo's selection of Vision GT concept cars. And in this particular episode we're featuring what is, in my opinion anyway, one of the best all-round VGTs that we've currently had. One of the best rendered, one of the most imaginative, one of the most usable, and one of the most highly tunable VGTs which we've currently had access to. It's one of currently 2 Volkswagen VGT cars. We later on received, of course, the closed-top VGT concept, which I will review in a future episode, but for now we are featuring the first of the 2, the open-topped Vision GTi Roadster. And I really like this car. I loved the car when it came out, and its ability as a VGT hasn't waned since it released. It's still as competitive now as it was when it came out, and you could say that about many VGTs, but many of them aren't that competitive to begin with anyway. This car, however, has been super competitive for its PP and especially for its power ever since it was released. Now, if you're talking sheer spec, this car's powered by a turbocharged 3-litre engine. It's all-wheel drive and it puts out 578 horsepower. Now that doesn't sound like a huge amount. That means it's pretty much on par with an average modern super sports car, like a 458 or a Gallardo LP 560. As far as torque, it puts out 515 pound-feet, which is pretty good, but not huge. It weighs in at 1200 kilos, which is pretty good. That does mean it's fairly track ready and impressive for an all-wheel drive car. And it puts out 482 horsepower per tonne, which is probably the least impressive stat that this car has to offer. That doesn't sound that impressive. That's pretty much on par with your average super saloon on the game, so not an amazing horsepower per tonne ratio. All that as it may, though, it still sits at a surprisingly high PP. 616. That's a very high PP for a car of its power and of its weight. 616 PP is not far off the PP level of the Toyota TS30 Hybrid. That's very high for a concept car to be sitting at. So, does it deserve to sit at that level? Well, I would say definitely it is. And the reason why is quite simple. It's extremely fast. Not just in a straight line, but around corners. This car is one of the best handling VGTs we've had, and pretty much everything about the car from a performance point of view is almost perfect. It doesn't have an insane amount of power. It has exactly the amount of power that it needs. It has a top speed of over 250 miles per hour when tuned, which makes it one of the better VGTs in that regard. The acceleration is very good for its power and just in general. The handling is excellent, and the handling is of course what makes it so good. Around the Nürburgring ring there's hardly anything else that can keep up with this car at its respective PP level. Especially if you down tune it to say 600 pp, it's extremely competitive. Now, as far as price, it does cost 1 million credits, which is around the same as most of the other VGTs with a couple of notable exceptions. So, the real question is it worth buying? Because with the VGTs it's a mixed bag. Some of them are fantastic value for that price, some of them really aren't worth that. Well, I would say this car is worth 1 million credits, and not just because of what it can do. This car has the all-round package that we should be getting from every VGT, because not only does it have the premium visual style from the outside, but thanks to the fact that they chose to make it as a roadster, they were pretty much forced to give it a detailed interior. And it's a great interior. I happen to love cars which are built as speedsters. Basically, a speedster is like a more exotic variation of a Spider or a convertible. Speedsters are generally fixed in the open top position, and they have very, very minimal windscreens. This car has that, and I personally think that makes a car look fantastic when it has a speedster style windscreen. And this car shows what Volkswagen does really well, and that is making awesome concept cars. Some cases actually concept cars which you almost wish that they hadn't made, because their road cars are never quite as awesome. This car, though, is what the VGT project is all about. It's a competitive car that shows imagination. It's like no other Volkswagen in the game, and it is tunable, good value for money, and extremely competitive. Overall, I would say that this car technically only has one rival, which is the closed-top version, but really I would say it has no rivals, because there is nothing else quite like this car currently on the game. It almost falls into a vehicle class of its own. Kind of a super sports car, kind of an evolution of a hot hatch, but overall completely unique. So I would definitely recommend checking this car out, and that's it overall for this episode. So I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.